episode 6 of an ASMR podcast. Back by no demand. I am recording this video before I post the one that I recorded before this. And in that one, I went over the first half of my record collection. And at the end, I was like, let me know if you guys want me to finish it. And then I realized I should just finish it, because why not? So today we're going to be going over records L through C, or X really, because that's where my record collection ends. And I'm on the floor today, so you may see my cats walking in the background. There's one that's lurking over here. I'll see if I can get him in frame. Come here, buddy. You can't see him, can you? Oh, he's thinking about it. Maybe not. He's a little camera shy. Although he is a big ham. He's like the hammiest cat I've ever met. Okay, so, oh god, the other one just came in. I have 2 cats, so they are little menaces. Oh, there he goes. Can't really. There he is. Okay, alright, we're gonna get off on this and start doing this before he destroys all these records. Okay, so first up here, starting with the L's, we have Steve Lacy, Gemini Rights, which is a great name for an album. I don't know if this was his debut album. I don't think it was. But it has just really, really, really great tracks on it. Let me see if I can actually take them out this time. Yeah. It's got Bad Habits, Sunshine, Static, which was just such a great song. So that's Steve Lacy, Gemini Rights. Next up, oh, again, giving the disclaimer, like, there's some albums in here I don't know anything about just because I picked them up and then planned to listen to them and then never did. And this is just like a fraction of my, I guess, musical tastes. This is just stuff that I could find on vinyl. Okay, next up is LCD Sound System of Silver. I'm trying to remember. Oh, Someone Great on this album is a fantastic song. LCD Sound System was really just kind of like a big question mark to me. I got into them when I was a bit younger, going through like my emo phase, because a friend of mine was into them, and I didn't think I was gonna like them, and then I did. They just have this like weird electronic sound, and their lyrics are like, can be confusing at times, but they're good. He's good. They're good. Okay, next up is Halu, Murkia and the Walias. I don't know if I pronounced this right. But this is, I've been going through a little bit of an Ethiopian jazz phase, which is maybe the most pretentious sentence I've ever said. But, like a couple years ago, I started going down the rabbit hole of Ethiopian jazz, and it has just been fantastic. Like, every artist that I come across is just so good. And, I don't know when this album came out. I want to guess maybe in the 70s, although it could be more recent. But, generally speaking, you should look into Ethiopian jazz if you haven't. Yeah, I mean, it says copyright 2014, but I think this was probably from like the 70s. And it did give a little bit of like an overview in the insert here, and it basically just says that in like the 70s and 80s, they had like a very strict government in terms of like censorship in Ethiopia. And so one of the ways that citizens there like combated this was that they got really into jazz music, because jazz, you can convey ideas without really saying anything. You can just do it through music. And so that's how jazz music became really popular in Ethiopia in the 70s and the 80s. So yeah, fun fact for the day. Next up, Glenn Miller, if you were here. Another big band, big swing jazz album. This one has In the Mood, Little Brown Jug, Chattanooga Choo Choo, A String of Pearls. These are all like great big band songs. Glenn Miller and Benny Goodman are like two of the greats, really. This next one I also think is Glenn Miller. Yeah, the one and only Glenn Miller and his orchestra. And these I didn't know. I didn't know any of the songs on these. But again, just another great album. You can't go wrong with Glenn Miller. Alright, next up is Mulchad Doma. And I'm gonna get pretentious here again, guys. I'm sorry. So Mulchad Doma is they're Belarusian, I think it's Belarusian, I don't know. They're a Belarusian band, but they currently live in Germany, I believe. And, they are like goth, post-punk, new wave kind of like music, but in Belarusian. I'm having a hard time describing their song. It's very like synthwave, very goth, very Eastern European, but they're like a pretty new band. Like they, I think this was released maybe in like 2020. And I don't know how to pronounce any of the names on this album, but the first song slays. I think the first song might just be called Doma Mulchad. I don't know. But they are a great band. Definitely check them out. I've listened to the three newest albums that they have, and they're all fantastic. And then this is also Mulchad Doma. I think this was Monument, maybe was the name of this one. This is them. It's the front of the album. Great. Yeah, this is Mulchad Doma Monument. Great album again. So this one, and then there's a one that's like a sort of like black and brown, brutalist looking building on the front of the other album that I've listened to, which I don't have on vinyl, which is their favorite album of mine. That one is also very good. Okay, next up here we have more of the Monkees. Going from like synth Eastern European goth music to the Monkees. The beauty of alphabetizing your albums. So this is just like a greatest hits compilation from the Monkees. I am my mother's daughter. Like, my mom was always really into like bands in the 60s and 70s, in the sort of like pop rock kind of, or just like rock and roll scene, and the Monkees was definitely one of them that she introduced me to. I love the song I'm Not Your Stepping Stone, and also great songs. I'm also gonna take a little sip of my tea here. There's another of my cats. I think they might be fighting. I'm really hoping that they're not, because they are like drag out WWE SmackDown style fights whenever they get into them. this is the only album of Casey Musgraves that I own, but it is phenomenal. I need to listen to more of her music. This is like a no skip album for me. It is really just hit after hit, like Slow Burn, Lonely Weekend, all the way down to like Velvet Elvis, Wonder Woman, High Horse, Golden Hour, and Rainbow. She slayed with this album. There's really nothing else to say. Incredible album. If you're looking for like a slow introduction into some country, I recommend her. But, and this may not be the place to say this hot take, but we are talking about music. Female singer country music, way better than male singer country music, in my opinion. All of my favorite country artists always tend to be like women, like Casey Musgraves. I listened to Lainey Wilson's album recently, phenomenal. And even just like older ones like Shania Twain, Faith Hill, The Chicks, like the music's just better. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but okay, next up, The Killers, Hot Fuzz. Maybe the greatest album ever put out in like the emo space. And I feel like they probably also wouldn't even, there's my other cat, they probably also wouldn't even classify themselves as emo, but, and they're not really emo, they were always more of like the electronic music, but an incredible album. I was actually just listening to this last night, and I had forgotten how good it is. This is the album with Mr. Brightside, which is maybe the most popular song ever written. Really can't go wrong with Hot Fuzz. Okay, next up, we have my favorite band ever, My Chemical Romance. This band, my 12-year-old emo self owes this band so much, and I owe this band so much now, too. I mean, because I loved them. Every single album they have is so special to me. This is The Black Parade. It looks a little different. This was like a special release, I think, because it does look a little different than the actual like CD. Oh my god, I should go through my old CD collection too. There's some real just bangers in there. But yeah, this is The Black Parade. The first concert I ever went to was a My Chemical Romance concert for the Black Parade tour. And then another My Chem album. I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love. This was their debut album. It's a little bit more raw than their other albums. And Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge is my favorite My Chem album, but this was my second favorite. Just because it is like really like raw and emotional and like not polished in any way, and I don't know, I really liked that when I was younger, and I still like it now. So alright, I got 3 stacks here. I'm moving these other 2 down. Gonna take a little another sip of tea, get to stack number 2. Okay, now that was my Chemical Romance was my favorite band growing up. Now we're gonna move into my favorite band. It went My Chemical Romance, and then I had a big Coldplay phase, which they were my favorite band for a hot second, and then like later in high school and all of college, and really up until now, like this next band has been consistently in my favorites, and that is The National. This is High Violet, which is my favorite album from them. The song Lemon World is just so special to me, and this is like a no skip album for me. Terrible Love, Sorrow, Anyone's Ghost, Afraid of Everyone, Blood Buzz So High, was listening to the first 2 pages of Frankenstein and Laugh Track, which were 2 albums they released in 2023 for the first time this past week. Those were like my 2 new albums that I listened to last week, and I was listening to them for really the first time last week, and they still got it. They're just so good consistently. And I was really like thinking about what I love most about the National, and I do love their lyrics, and I love like the timbre of the lead singer's voice. But for me, what makes the National so special is the give and take of the guitar, and the drumming on every single one of their songs is like mind-blowing to me, especially the style in which their drummer drums is like not really something I've ever heard before. It's almost like jazz, like it's wild and doesn't really follow like a common pattern, which when you listen to their music, like theoretically I feel like that shouldn't work, but it does in a very satisfying way. And I hope I did describing that like any justice at all. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, go listen to Lemon World. Okay, next up is another National album that says Trouble Will Find Me. This was not the album this was 2 releases after I Violet, I think. I would like to have all of the albums from the National, but I have not gotten there yet. But this is another great album. I Should Live in Salt, Don't Swallow the Cap. Don't Swallow the Cap is my favorite song from this album. This is The Last Time, Graceless. All great bangers. Banger after banger of sad girl music. And then another National album. This is Sad Songs for Dirty Lovers. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've actually listened to this one yet. This is on my list of albums that I need to listen to. I was really thinking yesterday, like this past week, that my brain is so broken because like the National is really one of my favorite bands, and they're so special to me. But there are like a couple albums that I haven't listened to full through, and I'm like, what is wrong with my brain that I just like haven't been able to listen to new music even from bands that I like? I don't know. Okay, next up, Oasis. Definitely, maybe. What can I say about this album? This is just such a classic album, really. Like, if you have any interest at all in 90s Britpop, this is the album for you. This is really a no-skip album as well. Rock and Roll Star, Live Forever, Columbia, Supersonic, Cigarettes and Alcohol, Slide Away. I mean, Oasis in the 90s is like, you can't go wrong pretty much at all with their music. Just banger after banger. Okay, next up here we have Pure Prairie League, Just Fly. This I picked up at the oldies record store, and I don't think I know any songs on this album, but I did know the band. I think they sung Amy, and I wanted to listen to more of their music, but I haven't gotten to it yet. But they're good. They're from the 70s, I think. When was this released? 1978. Yeah, they're like a 70s kind of band. This was $3. $3 for that album. Okay, next up, we have The Golden Hour of the Searchers. This is a 60s band. Wow, if you can't tell from their like mod outfits, look at those. Look at that guy's jacket. song comes in. And if you've never listened to that song before, it will change your brain chemistry. It's so got everybody, like, I wish that she had told everybody it was about Warren Beatty when it came out, because I feel like everybody would have hated him with such a passion knowing that that song was about him. But also, that's like the whole point of the song, is that nobody knows who it's about, but he does. He knows it's about him because he's so vain. Such a great, great song. Okay, next up, Frank Sinatra's September of My Years. So this album demonstrates that I am also my father's daughter. My dad loves Frank Sinatra. And I grew up listening to two of his favorites, Frank Sinatra and the Beach Boys. So we're getting into the Sinatra of it all. This one, I feel like I don't know every Frank Sinatra song, but on a deeper level, I do know every Frank Sinatra song because I feel like I've definitely heard all of these. I was just too young and I didn't know the names of the songs. But September song sounds familiar. The Man in the Looking Glass. The September of My Years. Yeah, these are classic Frank. Classic Frankie Blue Eyes, you know? Okay, next up is Dmitri Shostakovich. I feel like I'm mispronouncing. He is more classical. He's a Russian composer, and the best way that I've heard anybody ever describe his music is like if death metal were classical music. Very good. This one has the Sonata for cello and piano in F major. And then on the other side, it's Richard Strauss, which is Sonata for cello and piano in F major again. I don't know. They put OP.40. I've never known what that meant, even when I took band for 4 years in high school. Still don't know what that means. I probably should. I don't. Should I look that up? What that means? Where's my phone? Let me look up. What does OP mean in classical music? Opus. Oh, okay. It just means work. That makes sense. Okay. Well, now I know. OP stands for opus. So this has Opus 40 from Shostakovich and Opus 6 from Richard Strauss. There it is. Okay, and the last one of this pile, The Smiths, The World Won't Listen. This is actually, I think, one of their albums. It's not a compilation, but it has a lot of hits on it. Panic, Ask, London, Big Mouth Strikes Again, There Is a Light That Never Goes Out, Shoplifters of the World Unite, The Boy with a Thorn in His Side, Asleep. Asleep is my favorite Smith song. It's very ASMR coded. It is just so calming. You just haven't earned it yet, baby. God, these are... If this is one of their albums and not a compilation, this has a lot of hits on it. Does it say when it came out? Does that have a copyright? No. A lot of hits on that album. Okay, and now we are in pile number 3. One more sip of tea again before we move on. this is a no-skip album for me, I think. But my favorite song on here is probably Satellite. I love Satellite. It's just that feeling of like being really, really into somebody or in love with somebody, and you're just kind of like their friend, but you're just kind of waiting for them to realize that you're kind of in love with them. I feel like it does a very good job of conveying that kind of feeling. That's my favorite song from the album. Okay, next up is Sylvanesso. This band is so special to me. This was like my college band. I'm trying to remember when this album came out. I don't remember when this song came out. I feel like probably 2010, maybe. But this was, I don't remember if this was their debut album, but this has like Hey Mommy, HSKT, Coffee, Play It Right. Play It Right is such a great song. And yeah, this album, that may be a story for another day, but I studied abroad in Paris, and this album, like, saved me, along with a few other albums at the time, just from, like, taking my mind off of the situation at that point in time. Okay, next up is Currents by Tame Impala. Tame Impala is a artist that I've been getting into more recently in like the past few years. I was always kind of aware of their music, but never really like sat down and listened to their albums. Outside of like the past maybe year and a half, but their musical composition is like really incredible, and this album is fantastic. Let It Happen, Yes I'm Changing. Yes I'm Changing is probably my favorite song from Tame Impala. Eventually, The Less I Know the Better, 'Cause I'm a Man, Reality in Motion, New Person, Same Old Mistakes. This is kind of a no-skip album. There's maybe like one or two songs on here that like I might not listen to if I'm listening to the album, but most of the time when I put it on, it's a no-skip for me, which I feel like is a very good type of album to have if you listen to records, because you can't really skip songs on a record. I mean, yeah, I guess technically you can, but like it's more difficult than just hitting a skip button. You have to like find the place, and then you gotta drop the needle. So if you're looking to get into records, pick up some no-skip albums in your inventory for when you're picking up some vinyls, because that's really kind of what you need to listen to. Next up, Tennis, Young and Old. I really like Tennis. Most of their albums are no-skip albums for me. They're just kind of like light listening, really. This, though, is one of their albums that I haven't listened to, that I picked up because I wanted to listen to it, and I never did. Which is funny, because they have a bunch of albums, and I've listened to most of them, just not this one. I need to really get better about that. I need to take out the albums that I meant to listen to and do that soon. Next up is the original music for one of my favorite podcasts, True and On. If you've never listened to True and On, they're like a leftist podcast, but their intro song is made by this guy Young Chomsky, am surprised this doesn't have a track listing, but I guess, I mean, you really know what you're getting into when you buy this. It's the Four Seasons. So that's Vivaldi. Next up, Amy Winehouse, Back to Black. I mean, classic album. Incredible album. Changed music kind of album. Just, again, like a no skip for me. Rehab, You Know I'm No Good, Me and Mr. Jones, Back to Black, and then the remix of You Know I'm No Good with Ghostface Killah, where all of these are just fantastic, fantastic songs. God, miss her, love her. Alright, we're getting to the end here. Next up is, The Wombats, A Guide to Love, Loss, and Desperation. This album. So I also studied abroad in London, and this album came out when I was in high school, like a couple years before I studied. But when I tell you I converted so many people to the Wombats when I was there, because they are like one of my favorite English bands. They're so good. They're so good, and this is a no skip album. This album has so much talent, from the like lyrics to just their dynamic as a band. Like they're very kind of pop punk indie, but they're just fun. They're a fun band to listen to. They're a fun band to like dance around like an idiot to. I love them so much. This has Kill the Director, Moving to New York, Here Comes the Anxiety, Let's Dance to Joy Division, Backfire at the Disco, Patricia the Stripper, My First Wedding. My First Wedding is an insane song. It tells the story of a guy that gets invited to his ex's wedding, and he basically gets like absolutely blasted on like beer and brie cheese, and says something to the bride that he like can't remember basically, and ends up being like chased out of the wedding. It's such a good song. It's an insane song, but it's so good. And that's another thing that I love about the Wombats' writing style, is that a lot of their songs like tend to like tell a story, like you're listening to your friend tell you this story about something crazy that happened. I just love that format of a song, and they do it perfectly, beautifully. Okay, and the last album, the XX debut album, I believe. I think this is just self-titled. This album again like kind of changed music. Very low-key listening. This is kind of ASMR coded. I think the like story behind the album was just that they were renting a space where they had to like basically like they rented a space to record this album, but then realized that they weren't really allowed to make like a ton of noise, so they were limited in sort of like how loud the album can be, so they ended up producing like a very soft, chill album. They feature a lot of guitar, I want to say electronic drumming, and electric guitar, electronic drumming, and I think some synth, and just like very light vocals. And I think they, for my generation, really introduced that idea of like soft like low singing. I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm at that point where I'm trying to describe all these albums, and it didn't really make any sense. But they introduced that like chill wave genre, I feel like, to my generation in a lot of ways when this album came out. Very good album. Highly recommend. As I do